All right, everyone. I took a comedy writing and performance class recently, and I had to do a bit for class. I did a few bits, but people liked the one where I roast my family the most. That was the universal appeal. So I don't know it well. I have no cards, but I'll kind of show what I wrote, and hopefully no one will be offended.
I'm offended already.
What? You're offended already? Okay. Obviously, I've been traveling a lot lately, back and forth to Pennsylvania, to Connecticut, because helping out with my aging parents. Mom's short-term memory is going, and Dad has limited mobility, but together they're one unit.
I don't remember.
And so Dad recently had to go to the hospital. He was complaining his walking was getting worse. But he got there, and they found out he had 4 broken ribs, and wasn't complaining about that. He didn't want medication. His biggest gripe was constipation. And of course, the whole family loves toilet humor, so that led to a whole bunch of shit jokes. And our family, we could talk about crap for breakfast, lunch, or eating chocolate cake for dessert, and even growing up with church, because Dad always said, he who farts in church sits in own pew. And then speaking of smelly things, my little brother Greg, I got to tell you a little bit about him. So when he was a kid, he had bad asthma and allergies, and his nose ran a lot. And he would exhale, and it would puff up like, it was a bubble, like small. And I would just stare at it like, when is it going to pop? And usually I was disappointed because it would just kind of deflate and go down his lip. And then my 10th birthday party, in the basement, Greg makes an appearance. Little 5-year-old boy wearing his $6 Million Man t-shirt with a little smart aleck grin on his face around all these 10-year-old girls. And he has this long line of snot to the ground. And he was just going in circles. And I believe one of my friends named a yo-yo trick after Greg called walk the dog. I mean, walk the brother. And then around that same time, I watched The Exorcist, the original movie, on TV, and then I had to go to bed that night. And so I lay down, and this is what I hear. It was Greg down the hall sleeping. And so I couldn't fall asleep that night, with my brother sounding like Linda Blair. And then The Exorcist stood with me my whole life. I dressed as Linda Blair for Halloween on a couple occasions. And so when I was in college, I go to this party. So I had the pajamas, the makeup, the soundtrack, Tubular Bells on a cassette, and on a boombox. And I took green Jello with Cool Whip so I could spit up green slime. And I have action photos yet of those photos. And so I'm at this party. I walk up to the keg, and there's all these guys I didn't know. And the one guy's like, "Who are you supposed to be, a dead grandmother?" So I looked at him, and I'm like, "Your mother sucks cock now." And he was like, "Dude, it's a guy." And I'm like, I roll my eyes. And besides being the latent homosexual that I was, I knew those guys weren't for me. But my little brother, he gets my dark side. He gets me. He has green stuff coming out his nose. I have green stuff coming out my mouth. And he outgrew his boogery nose, and the streak marks in the underwear. But I'll take your word for that because I don't do your laundry. And so today, Greg's this big guy. His bubble has moved from here to here. He's this 6 foot, 300-pound guy, and he has this queer sister who still loves gay jokes. You know, I secretly love gay jokes. So, you know, like I say, I'm running to Homo Depot, I'm going to Target, and I love Greg's imitation of a gay man. So, you know, he's this big guy, and he's like, hey. And then, and I know he doesn't do it out of malice. You know, it's kind of like like the irony of his self-image, because like Greg's Facebook page, he has a profile photo of this big guy with a dirty t-shirt, and it says, sorry girls, I only date models. But we know with my brother, it'll probably only be a model of a Dodge Shelby Charger. But so recently Greg and I were texting, and I'm going to read this to it because he doesn't use capitalization or punctuation. It took a while to figure out what he was saying. So he's like, if you have Netflix, you need to watch Special. It is so funny. I do. What's Special? It's a Netflix comedy series. What is name of Special? If you wrote name previously, it's not in this thread. I may have deleted it without seeing it. Special. So I Google it, and so there's this TV show called Special, and it's and you know we all know it's a, you know, special is a derogatory term for people who are mentally or physically disabled, or you know, it can mean you're unique or exceptional, or a special deal at under a flashing light at Kmart's. So I watched a few episodes, and I could see why Greg could relate to the major character. So it was written by and about a gay man with cerebral palsy. And so since Greg had a stroke many years ago, which left him, you know, drag his leg and his hand curls up, you know, I see how he could relate to that. But in one of I was a little surprised, but not exactly, because in one of the first scenes there was like a vivid gay male sex scene. And he never even said anything about it, but I was surprised. Maybe TV, in a movie, but not TV. You know, my brother's this big motorhead. You know, he has some redneck Trumper friends, but his favorite movie is The Birdcage. And you know, the movie with Nathan Lane,
I
and
saw that movie.
And Robin Williams. You know, we're talking fussy, Martha Graham, Twilight. You know, all that gay stuff. You know, and so he loves this movie so much that when you enter, so he has this full-size movie poster framed in his house, and you see it when you first enter his house in the front door.
And it's got a Jesus light over it.
And it's in the coal region of Pennsylvania. Greg's been helping out my parents a lot, and I was planning to come and give him a break, and he was telling me how mom repeats herself a lot and says the same stories, and he says she's like an Etch-a-Sketch. And then dad's doing PT. So Greg jokes about there being 3 cripples in the same house. And then I was like, what do you think that looks like to change a light bulb? You know, Dad with his walker looking up at the ladder, Greg with his gimp hand, and then Mom not even knowing where the light bulbs are.
And we need the used ones.
So like, you know, I was expecting to come home and find lots of candles and flashlights. But really, so you know, before I end, so my dad was in the hospital, and while he was there, he called 911 from within the hospital room. Really, and he told them that people were trying to give him drugs. They would take drugs. And he told the nurses to get out and lock the door. So I was thinking that I might use that for a future sketch comedy with one of my next classes, comedy classes. So anyway, in the meanwhile, you know, I'm spending more time with my family. Now I know to take notes, especially because I have a family that's special.
Very good. Thanks, Connie. Where do you think they were going to take